Welcome to The Explainer. So picture this. It's September 2024, and Apple drops what is arguably one of the most memorable ads in its entire history. It features actress Bella Ramsey, and she's totally panicking because she can't remember the name of a boy she'd met at a cafe months earlier. So she picks up her iPhone, asks Siri, and Siri instantly combs through her texts, her emails, her calendar, and just pulls out the name. Just like that. It was literally a perfect ad. It was emotional, relatable, and exactly the kind of thing that makes you want to immediately go out and upgrade your phone. There was just one massive problem. The feature didn't actually exist.
Section 1. The $250 million mistake, a broken promise, and a massive settlement. You see, Apple had promoted these amazing capabilities that, well, they just hadn't built yet. When customers actually went out and bought their iPhone 16 expecting that incredible new Siri, the AI assistant Apple literally promised them, they basically got the exact same Siri they'd always had. 6 months later, Apple quietly pulled the ad. And a year after that, Apple agreed to pay a whopping $250 million to settle a class action lawsuit for false advertising. This right here is the full story of Apple Intelligence. It is without a doubt the most watched, most delayed, and most controversial AI product launch in Apple's entire history. We're going to dive into how Apple fell behind every single competitor, what they finally did about it, why they paid Google $1 billion a year for the answer, and what is about to completely change on June 8th, 2026 at WWDC. Let's figure this out.
Section 2. How Apple fell behind. The 2-year gap between ChatGPT and Siri.
To really get where Apple is at today, we kind of have to look at how badly they missed the initial AI wave. In November 2022, ChatGPT launched and pretty much overnight became the fastest-growing consumer app in history. Then in March 2023, GPT-4 arrived. By May, Google had launched Bard, and Anthropic had launched Claude. And where was Apple during all of this? Well, they spent 2023 largely silent on AI. While every other major tech company was racing to ship products, Apple was stuck internally debating strategy, desperately trying to protect its privacy brand, and, according to reports that came out later, dealing with some serious internal dysfunction within its AI teams. Siri had been around since 2011, and for a while, it really was ahead of its time. But by 2023, it had basically become a punchline. I mean, it couldn't hold a conversation, it totally lacked context, and it forgot what you said 3 seconds ago. While ChatGPT was out there writing essays and coding entire apps, Siri was literally still struggling to set a timer correctly. So by the time Apple finally took the stage at WWDC in June 2024 to unveil Apple Intelligence, the gap between Siri and ChatGPT was roughly 2 full years wide. Apple had 2.2 billion active devices in the wild, more than any other company on Earth, but the AI running on them was the absolute weakest of any major platform. Now, their announcement at WWDC 2024 was incredibly ambitious. They promised a completely rebuilt Siri, deep personal context, on-screen awareness, and the ability to control literally any app with your voice. They even promised ChatGPT integration, image generation, and system-wide writing tools. The audience was super impressed, the press was positive, and pre-orders for the iPhone 16 were incredibly strong. But then, Apple actually had to ship it.
What followed was honestly one of the most damaging product rollouts in Apple's modern history. When the iPhone 16 launched in September 2024, Apple Intelligence was only partially available. Sure, you got the writing tools and a slightly better Siri that could handle basic follow-up questions. You also got notification summaries, which quickly became infamous for summarizing news completely wrong, including this one terrible BBC notification that falsely suggested a murder suspect had killed himself. But what you definitely did not get was the personalized Siri that could actually read your emails and messages. There was no on-screen awareness, no deep app control, and absolutely none of that conversational magic that made the Bella Ramsey ad so compelling in the first place.
Apple kept saying, these features are coming soon. But then soon became spring 2025, and spring became fall 2025. Then fall became 2026. And with every single delay, internal reports kept leaking. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who absolutely has the best track record of any Apple journalist, reported that internal testing for the new Siri was, quote, not going well. Features were failing basic quality checks. The AI team was supposedly struggling with massive, fundamental problems getting their large language model to reliably access personal data without making errors. That's when the lawsuit hit. Plaintiffs claimed Apple had saturated the market with deceptive ads, tricking people into buying iPhones for Siri features that simply didn't exist yet. So in May 2026, Apple agreed to pay $250 million to settle it. Eligible iPhone 16 and certain iPhone 15 buyers could get anywhere from $25 to $95 per device. Naturally, Apple denied any wrongdoing, but they absolutely wrote that check. And to make matters worse, a totally separate class action was filed by South Korea's National Pension Service, claiming Apple's AI delays caused billions in stock market losses. That one is actually still ongoing. So keep all of this in mind, because this is the exact context you need to understand what Apple is about to announce on June 8th.
Section 3, the billion-dollar Google deal, an unthinkable partnership in late 2025. So, at some point in late 2025, someone inside Apple made a decision that literally would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. They called Google. On January 12, 2026, Apple and Google shocked everyone and jointly announced a multi-year AI partnership. Apple would actually license Google's Gemini AI models to power a totally rebuilt Siri and enhanced Apple Intelligence features. And get this, the deal is estimated at roughly $1 billion per year. Let that sink in for a second. The world's most valuable company, a company famous for building everything in-house, famous for obsessive secrecy, famous for we do it better ourselves, agreed to pay its biggest search rival $1 billion every single year to power its AI assistant. But the technical details here are absolutely crucial. Apple isn't just slapping Gemini into Siri and calling it a day. The whole integration runs through Apple's private cloud compute framework. These are hardware-isolated servers where the Gemini queries are actually processed. Apple insists that zero user data is shared with Google. The Gemini model weights run strictly inside Apple's infrastructure, not Google's. No data is saved after it's processed. Even Google CEO Thomas Kurian confirmed publicly that Google Cloud is simply Apple's preferred cloud provider for this. Plus, the specific model Apple licensed is a custom 1.2 trillion parameter Gemini model, built explicitly for Siri. This is not the standard Gemini you'd use at gemini.google.com. It's highly optimized just for Apple. But here is a detail that almost nobody is talking about, and it might just be the most important thing Apple announces at WWDC. iOS 27 will actually allow any AI model distributed through the App Store to power Siri, not just Gemini. Anthropic could totally publish a Siri-compatible Claude model. OpenAI could drop a Siri-compatible GPT model. Mistral, Llama, even highly specialized models for healthcare or legal work, they're all potentially eligible. Apple isn't just adopting Gemini, they are literally turning Siri into an AI marketplace, using the App Store as the distribution layer. Think about it. Every major AI lab in the world now has a massive incentive to build a Siri-compatible model. Apple takes their standard cut, users get total choice, and Apple never has to bet the entire farm on a single AI partner ever again. It's kind of brilliant.
Section 4. Inside Siri 2.0, the leaked iOS 27 interface.
Okay, so Bloomberg actually published these first-look screenshots of the iOS 27 Siri interface on May 28, 2026, which was less than 2 weeks before WWDC. And wow, here is what's coming. The Siri interface has been completely redesigned. So instead of that little floating bubble at the bottom of your screen, Siri in iOS 27 actually wraps around the entire edge of your display. It's this glowing border that shows exactly when it's listening, processing, or responding. It honestly looks like nothing Apple has ever shipped before. Plus, there's a brand new standalone Siri app. It's not just a voice trigger anymore, it's an actual chatbot interface where you can type or speak, have deep multi-turn conversations, and get long-form answers. Think of it basically as Apple's own built-in version of the ChatGPT app. They've also added a dedicated Siri mode right inside the camera app, right next to photo, video, and portrait. You just point your camera at something, ask a question, and Siri answers based on exactly what it sees. You can ask it to identify a dish on a menu, read a messy handwritten note, or tell you what historical building you're staring at. The shutter button even changes to show the Apple Intelligence logo. And finally, Siri has memory. If you casually told Siri last Tuesday that you have a flight to Delhi on Friday, and then on Thursday you ask what time you should leave for the airport, it actually remembers. It's even getting proactive. It'll notice you have an airport pickup at 6 p.m., see that traffic is getting bad, and ping you to leave early without you even having to ask.
Now, under the hood, this new Siri runs on 3 distinct layers. For simple everyday tasks like setting a timer or opening an app, it handles it locally right on your device, using Apple's own on-device models. Super fast, super private. But for complex reasoning that needs internet knowledge, it seamlessly calls that custom Gemini model through the private cloud compute layer. And for tasks where you specifically want ChatGPT, it can still route it there, but it will always ask for position first. Oh, and here's the fun fact. Apple just registered a new subdomain, geni.apple.com, literally 5 days before WWDC. The page isn't live yet, but timing-wise, it strongly suggests a massive public-facing AI hub is launching alongside iOS 27.
And it doesn't stop with Siri. iOS 27 is bringing a massive wave of Apple Intelligence upgrades across the entire system.
In photos, we are getting two crazy new tools, Reframe and Extend. Reframe uses AI to intelligently crop and recompose your photos based on the subject. Extend uses AI to magically expand the edges of a photo, literally filling in whatever was just out of frame. If you've used Photoshop's generative fill or Google Photos, this is Apple's native on-device version of that. Shortcuts are getting a huge buff too. They can now tap directly into Apple Intelligence, meaning your automations can use the full reasoning power of the AI model, not just basic step-by-step commands. Live translation is getting way deeper language support and lightning-fast on-device processing for phone calls and texts. And then there's Voice over Image Explorer, which uses AI to generate insanely detailed descriptions of images across the whole system. It can scan a bill and read you the exact amount and due date, describe your personal photos in detail, or even read handwritten notes out loud.
It gets even better. Voice control is getting a massive natural language upgrade. You don't have to memorize strict interface labels anymore. You can just describe what you want to do in your own words, and the AI just figures out what to press. Over on the Apple Watch, there's a new feature called Workout Buddy, providing real-time AI coaching that actually adapts to your pace, your heart rate, and your workout history. For Vision Pro, users can now control compatible wheelchairs simply using their eyes, powered by AI tracking that actually understands your intent, not just random eye movements. But perhaps the biggest deal of all, Apple is opening up the on-device large language model to third-party developers. Apps can now call the exact same AI model that powers Siri. This means your favorite third-party apps will be able to reason, summarize, and generate text natively without ever sending your private data to a random server. Honestly, this is the feature that is going to completely change what every single app on your phone is capable of.
Section 5. Apple versus the competition. A different kind of AI advantage. Let's just be brutally honest for a second about where Apple actually stands right now compared to ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. In terms of raw AI capability, Apple Intelligence is absolutely still behind. Yes, the Gemini deal closes a huge chunk of that gap. I mean, a 1.2 trillion parameter model is no joke. But ChatGPT running GPT 5.5 and Google's Gemini 3.5 are still beating them on most benchmarks for deep reasoning, complex coding, and creative tasks. But you know what? Apple's advantage is totally different, and it's massively significant. First off, privacy by design. Apple Intelligence processes as much as it possibly can right on your device. When it absolutely has to go to the cloud, it hits those hardware-isolated servers where your data is never retained. Literally no other major AI platform can make a claim like that at Apple's scale. For the hundreds of millions of people who care deeply about where their personal data goes, this is a massive selling point. Second, their hardware integration. Apple controls the chips, the operating system, the apps, and the device itself. When Apple ships an AI feature, it works beautifully across your iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, and Vision Pro all at once. Nobody else has this level of vertical integration.
And third, their installed base. To put this into perspective, Apple has 2.2 billion active devices. ChatGPT has about 800 million monthly users. When iOS 27 ships in September 2026, Siri 2.0 is going to drop into the pockets of an audience that absolutely dwarfs every standalone AI app on the planet. Think about it. You don't have to go download Siri. It is just already there. So the honest assessment is this. If Siri 2.0 actually works as promised, and look, that is a very genuine if, considering their history of delays, Apple's mix of absolute privacy, deep hardware integration, and insane distribution scale gives them a very real path to becoming the dominant AI platform for everyday people. And that's true even if they never win a single technical benchmark. But if Siri 2.0 flops, the scrutiny is going to be incredibly brutal. Every future AI promise they make will be viewed through the lens of that original $250 million lawsuit, the pulled ads, and the years of hearing, "coming soon." WWDC on June 8th is without a doubt the most consequential AI moment Apple has faced in a decade.
Section 6. What it means for you. The practical upgrade strategy. So here's the practical question we all have. What should you actually do right now? Well, if you currently have an iPhone 16 or a recent iPhone 15 Pro, you are golden. You're already eligible for everything coming in iOS 27 this fall. You literally don't need to buy a thing. When iOS 27 ships in September, Siri 2.0 is just going to show up as a free update. Now, if you are on the fence and thinking about a new iPhone, honestly, just wait until September. The iPhone 17 is launching right alongside iOS 27, and it's going to be built from the ground up specifically around this new Siri experience. Buying a phone before September basically means you're buying before the full Apple Intelligence story is totally clear. If you own an older iPhone, just know that these features require at least an iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 16. Older devices just won't get the full suite of features. This is honestly the clearest upgrade argument Apple has made in years. It's not about camera specs or thinner bezels this time, it's strictly about AI capability. And look, if you're a power user who relies on ChatGPT or Gemini every single day, Siri 2.0 isn't going to replace those tools for you. But it is poised to become the absolute best option for quick, highly personal, and highly private tasks. Setting contextual reminders, analyzing your complex schedule, or asking quick questions about whatever happens to be on your screen.
You have to think of it as a powerful complement, not a replacement. Because the most important takeaway here is this: Apple is not trying to win the AI benchmark race. They are trying to be the AI that you actually trust with your most sensitive personal information, your health data, your private messages, your location history, your family photos. If they nail that privacy story and Siri 2.0 actually delivers on its promises, that is an incredibly defensible position to be in.
So here is one thing I really recommend you do before June 8th. Literally just write down 3 things you wish Siri could do right now that it currently can't. Maybe it's remembering the context from a conversation you had yesterday. Maybe it's actually understanding the app you have open on your screen. Or maybe it's just controlling your phone's settings without you having to memorize some robotic command. Write them down. Then watch the WWDC keynote on June 8th. It's streaming for free on apple.com. And see how many of those 3 specific things Apple actually manages to deliver. The gap between your list and what Apple actually shows on stage, that is going to be the most honest measure of where Apple Intelligence actually stands. Not some arbitrary tech benchmark, not a polished press release, your personal list. That original Bella Ramsey ad was a massive promise. WWDC 2026 is Apple's real chance to finally keep it. I'm your host, and this is The Explainer. We cover the most important tools shaping the world in plain English every single week. If this gave you the full picture, please subscribe. We are here every week breaking this stuff down. And drop a comment below. Are you upgrading to the iPhone 17 this year? And is Apple Intelligence the main reason why? See you in the next one.